Good afternoon. And on behalf of NCBA, welcome to our webinar on preparing for tornadoes, floods, and hurricanes. Marco Johnson with the American Red Cross, National Capital and Greater Chesapeake region is back with us as our presenter today. He has served with the American Red Cross for over 10 years as lead for the Reunification Safe and Well program, demonstrator for the hands-only CPR, and trainer in assisted living and long-term care facilities. Also, he supports the disaster services technology, the community preparedness education, the Be Red Cross Ready activities, and the Pillowcase Project. Welcome, Marco, and thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Today, we have some important things that we're going to talk about. And the American Red Cross, it does quite a few things, and we're across the United States, we're around the world, and we teach the life-saving skills, and I take some of the courses myself. And we have the blood program that for people that are able can donate blood, and this goes out to hospitals and for people who need blood after disasters, emergencies. The Red Cross serves the military families. We provide international aid. You can tell we're in the news around the world last several days. And the Red Cross plans for and delivers the disaster relief and recovery services. So I'm happy to be here with you on behalf of the Red Cross. An important thing I'd like to get us all ready, redcross.org. There's a lot of information nowadays on where you can search for it and things that are readily available. One thing we have from the Red Cross is this on your smart devices. Some people used to call them telephones. We have download the first aid. You can type in there, search Red Cross or search emergency exclamation point. And we have two apps. The first aid is like a little first aid kit, a little booklet that you might have. And I like this first aid downloaded on the phone because as long as my phone's charged up, I don't need the internet. So I have a little resource right there. The emergency is a very dynamic application that helps us satisfy and be informed and communicate along with all the things of being ready before, during, and after. So it's a good thing to search some of these emergency apps and type in Red Cross, type in emergency, type in first aid, and download, have some of these resources. So right now you're getting the first step, and being informed and being ready is by using the technology while it's here and while it's available. We do need to be ready. We have to be reminded sometime to be ready if things are going happy and blue skies with us. But who's the most important person? Who is the most important person that needs to be paired? Does anybody know? You can put in the chat. We use the chat on this program, and I'd like you to use the chat, put in questions, but when we have a slide, you might get a question. And I give a hint here of who's the most important to be ready, who needs to be ready. It's you, yourself. Then you could help others, and you could help your people you live with, and you could help neighbors and responders. By being ready and knowing things and being informed, when the fire truck comes and the ambulance comes and the police come, you could tell him something because you're informed and you know what's going on. Prepare, respond, and recover before, during, and after. Here's a reference for a Red Cross information. But what is important? What does preparing do? What do you get from preparing? Type in the chat. What's the most important thing of how to prepare? What does preparing help do? All right. Type in the chat if you think it means stay safe, adapt to challenges, recover quickly. So by being prepared, you can respond and recover and meet these hazards. Being prepared, preparedness, thinking about emergencies, what could happen. We like at the Red Cross to talk about learn something. So today you're learning at least one thing. I want you to learn one thing, do one thing, and then do the next thing. So learn how emergencies happen and how to stay safe when they do. So why are you here today? You're here to learn. You learn one thing, more than one thing, but you're going to do one thing, and then you're going to do the next thing. Then we practice, learn, practice, share, practice what we learn, and we can share it with others. And then we'll be ready when emergencies happen. We're going to share with others, because sometimes if there's an emergency, you might not be able to do all the things you got ready for, but because you shared, that other person then could help you. So learn, practice, and share is a very important thing for you to do, and that we teach at the Red Cross. What do you think is the most important thing before, during, and after? This slide gives you a little hint. Type in the chat. Is there something on this slide? Which one of these bullets are more important for you? What would you use if you needed to be informed? If I'm informed before there's going to be a big storm, if I'm going to be informed during, hey, it's here now. Maybe you don't feel it, but it's around your neighborhood. It's coming your way. It's coming to where you live. And after, how do I recover? What do I do? So thinking about how to get informed, how to get information. What I like is a crank radio, and it has the weather station. It has special stations that give the news and help you for emergencies. Here's the little smartphone, and we already learning about getting some apps on your smartphone that gives you alerts, so you can be informed. You can be alerted to when emergencies happening. So the emergency app, and then if something happens or somebody gets hurt, perhaps the Red Cross first aid app will help too. So a crank radio, I have here my crank radio. It also looks like a flashlight, but it's a radio and a flashlight and a siren to help people know where I am. So I'm being informed by having the tools. And then we have different kind of laptops and a handheld that you could have battery backup. So as long as you have these battery backups for the phones, this is a crank radio, and this crank radio will charge up this phone. Some crank radios will even recharge your tablets or your laptops. So just because the power goes out or you're in an emergency, don't give up the tools and the way that you can be informed. These things will help you working with the authorities and learning how to decide if you go or you stay. What should you do in the beginning then? It's okay. There's not a storm. There's not the ice and the snow and the winds and the rains. What should we be doing? We should be thinking. We should be thinking about and making our note. And there's my friend with the checklist, going through a checklist and seeing what they need, where their accounts are, what do they need for their medicals, what do the people in the house need, right? Taking an inventory. And if you need some medical things, what are you going to do about that medicine? Do you have a good supply? So look at this and think what's important to you, because that's what happens. Remember, you're the most important person for me today. All right. Sometimes you get to stay where you are, but they'll say the roads are closed all around, so you have to stay where you are. You've heard that on your crank radio. You got it on your alerts. All right. So what could happen where you live? Who's traveling? Are there needs? And the pets and the service animals. You're learning things for yourself, and then you're practicing things and you're sharing with others, because while you're doing this, you're building your support network. And who can be in this support network? Find out for yourself. If you don't have one now, you could start one. You could say, hey, I'm learning something. I'm going to share with somebody else, and they could become part of my network because I'm telling them what I learned, and then they could help me. What's important to teach children and others? What's important to do? Look at this. What would you put? Put in the chat, which would you pick? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. I give you a little hint there because I kind of put bold the things that I like to learn. I'd like to teach everybody when you're in a safe place, how to call 911 and what they're going to ask you. What would you put? What would you think about for yourself in your own notes? Think about these kind of things. And does everybody know, what does the smoke alarm even sound like? And what do you do when it goes off? All right. Where is your safe meeting place for yourself? Where would you go? Where would your friends go? We have special things to learn about for pets, because guess what? If you had to leave your home and take your pet with you, you could already know beforehand what shelters, what hotels, what motels become pet. Some are pet friendly when there's an emergency or disaster. So it's good to learn about these kind of things and say, well, if I have to go, or if I have to stay and can't get out, do I have enough food? Do I have enough things for my pets? This person has her pets with her, and she has the food and everything. So she was planned ahead. There's important things you do ahead of time, and you learn about yourself. You assess your needs. What do you think is the most important thing on this slide? Gather essentials. Put in the chat, do you already have these? The good thing would be, do you already have some of these things? I have my whistle. I keep it in my pocket because my whistle, people can hear it farther and longer than I could say, help me, help me. I can't really say help me for 3 hours, a long time, but I can blow my whistle pretty long. And find out what you need, what's important. What do you already have? Look around you. Do you have this already at home, at work? Are some of these things in your car? Very important to start to gather and get ready now, right? There's our crank radio again, and our meds, our first aid kits, water, right? And now we have to wear personal protection, things like that. What do you need for hygiene? I like toothpicks. I like to keep, and different things like that. So find out what you need. What makes you feel comfortable? What's your fun toy? You know, so I pack in my go bag. I have my fun toy. It's my little Crushy Crush. It's my little Red Cross emergency response vehicle. So this is spongy, and I could play with it, and I could use it as a ball. But I said, oh, there's my friend. And it helps me pick a toy, have something that you take with you in your go bag. Besides, most important, do you know what your records, your numbers are for your accounts? Do you have your identification? Things to think about. I know you can do some of these right away. I'm very much excited about having a 3x5 card, a Ziploc bag, but everybody should have some form of an ID card, right? That has some phone numbers and some important things on it. But this emergency contact card is also important because it has the front and the back, but you could look at this information, who's in town that someone can call, who's out of town, and things like that. So I'm very much excited to find out, no matter how old you are, where you're working or whatever, have an emergency card on you, have some contact information. And guess what? Some of these things you could fill out on your smartphone. And without needing the password on the smartphone, fire and rescue and emergency people can contact your emergency contacts for you. While we're getting ready, remember, we've got time, we're planning. While we're getting ready, about if we stay, here's some things to do. Are you only we're working at home, a lot of us now, but then we still go places. I still go out to the big box stores. I still go out to my little favorite places like Lowe's and Home Depots and the hardware stores. I'm always looking for new kind of tools. So think of things of where you go, what you do, and what kind of water will you need, what kind of food, what kind of supplies, you know. We like to think making a kit for everywhere. Here's a small one that you put around your waist. Here's a big one that some people have ready. All right, here's sometimes if you want to have this much food to ready to put in your car or your trunk or you're saving in a certain place. Here is a pillowcase that even if you don't have a big backpack or something yet, you could easily get ready and have something important. So if you go or if you stay, there's certain things you need your kit for everywhere, right? And what's important to you. And then identify the kind of disasters, and maybe you'll have a different kit for each disaster. Here's the different things. What do you have now? What do you have already? Here's my toy soldiers, right? They don't take up very much space, right? I have some deck of cards. There's my ID. So remember, look for some things, start to collect them. How much water will you need? Now that we've gotten some of our things ready, just in case we have emergencies, hazards create emergencies and hazards, emergencies, weather, power outage, a truck hitting the power lines, and things like that. So in the chat box, put in there where you're from, put in, have you ever seen this kind of hazard emergencies? Here's this chart of the heat, the cold, wildfire, storms. Have you ever seen a tornado? What is a landslide? What's a thunderstorm? Home fires? If you've seen these, put them in the chat for me so I could see what we're doing. All right. And I'm seeing in the chat, somebody in Washington, D.C., you know, experienced a fire, hurricanes and thunderstorms. These things could happen. Now, across the country, learn about where you are and what could happen normally. Although, guess what? It seems to me we're getting things from other states. So I wish you all keep your weather to yourself. But I see here I'm getting ready for spring and somebody tell me they had snow. So tell me like what state you're from and did you experience any weather lately, last 30, 60 days? Some weather we had didn't seem like too long ago. We had some high snow and some ice. And I want to know how many people who had snow here in the Atlantic and wore their flip-flops. If you want to tell me you wore your flip-flops out in the snow, I'd like to know about that. Do we wear flip-flops out in the snow or sandals? We're not supposed to, right? We're supposed to take care of ourselves and wear the right things. So the same thing going as experiencing the weather. What can you prepare for? What do you need? Where do you live? And what do you know, icy toes you get if you wear icicles, right? So wear gloves and things. What did you experience and where you're going? It helps to know how to prepare. Preparing before, during, and after. If these things can happen, home fires, they tell me around this area, this region, they happen, you know, one a day in this whole region or several a week. Fires, and there's flooding, thunderstorms, and extreme heat and extreme cold. Learn what happens around where you are, and then practice how to prepare before, during, and after, and how to respond. All right, what causes thunder? Put for me in the chat, what causes thunder? What causes thunder? I wonder what causes thunder. What do you do if you hear thunder? Yes, somebody is right. Lightning causes thunder. I see it in the chat. Keep that chat going. What do you do if you hear thunder? Put in the chat. What do you do if you hear thunder? Right. Go indoors. Excellent. What happens? What happens about thunderstorms? The heavy rains cause flooding. What is the most dangerous part of a thunderstorm? Are we learning what the most dangerous part is? It's the lightning. What comes first? Lightning or thunder? Put it in the chat. First is, okay, let's learn this. What do you do when you hear thunder? Go inside. What causes thunder? Lightning. Here it's coming. When thunder roars, go indoors. That means everybody, even the smart people, right? Go indoors. Now we're learning it's important to be ready and be prepared to learn about warnings and watches and instructions from your radio and your local authorities and from the schools, from the office. Learn about what you should do. If this is a warning was given to this person right on this slide, and they're into water up to their knees, and I still see them outside in the rain and storm, take action. So there's time to be prepared, but there's time to take action. Don't be like this guy and just staying out in the rain. My mother used to told me, don't you know to come in the rain? Hurricanes bring a lot of these different kind of storms. What speed, what kind of storm gets a name? Look here on this chart. Who gets a name? Let me see. Who gets a name? A tropical storm going over, up to 40 to 73 miles per hour gets named. So when you're hearing the information about the weather and a storm nearby you or on its way to see you got a name, start paying attention. If it gets 74 or more miles per hour, it gets to be a real hurricane. So if it's got a name and it's going fast, it's a hurricane, and you could look at the maps. If it's coming right to where you live, you better start to act and get really ready. Sometimes we like to think, and people and weather experts like to put hurricanes into certain seasons, the Atlantic and Pacific. But the weather for the last 5 years has been challenging us and coming when it wants to. It's still snowing when it's supposed to be sprouting flowers. It's still high winds when it's supposed to be not windy. So pay attention, but you can sort of expect if you're planning events through these times. What do you think happens when a hurricane comes through? What do you think could happen? Have you experienced a hurricane? Put me in the chat. Yes, hurricane. And what happened? Was the building okay? You know, could you still drive your car? What happened to the power lines? What happened to the gas lines? All right, there's very important things to think about. And what can happen to you? What kind of place do you live in? Do you stay in? Do you work in? What will a hurricane do with that kind of place where you are? If things are possible, we have time to get ready. We have time to get ready. So, but if you get warnings, that's why it's important to learn what's a watch, what's a warning. Let's now hurry up, no time. Let's take some action. Go do something. Go to safety. Look at your kits. If hurricanes bring rain, make sure you have your rain gear, right? Evacuation routes, places to go. Have you ever seen signs on a road and it says, this is a snow route? Can't park your car here in the snow because the plows are coming through. This is emergency road. So many places will have zones and signs up of where there's this way out of town, emergency route. It'll tell you to be informed. So keep informed, listen to what's coming and how big and fast it's coming. Right? Get a chance to get things ready. If there's anything outside that can blow away, if you can make sure your windows and doors and things are done, do what you can do. Right? You might have to leave quickly if law enforcement says the winds are coming, the tornadoes, the floods, the hurricanes. Listen to the information. If you have to stay inside because they said the roads are bad and there's no place to go, be careful, stay away from the windows, keep listening to the information. One thing about hurricanes and wind and water and floods, turn around, don't drown, stay away from it. Don't be curious. It doesn't take much water to pull a person or a car off and cause a lot of trouble. After it's over, there's still things that could happen. Trees and buildings and structure could be weakened. The power lines could still be loose. And be careful, look around, pay attention, and learn what to avoid. You still want to be clean. You want to take care because sometimes water's contaminated. You might want to let people know you're safe and well. You take pictures for your insurance. All right. And if you get the warning, you can certain things some people can do, how to be safer. Turn around, don't drown. Has anybody seen a flood? Did anybody try to go walk into a flood because it was hot in summertime? And you say, well, I'm barefoot and the flood's all around. I'm going to go walk down. Tell me in the chat, did anybody walk in a flood? Because sometimes you never know how deep the holes are or how fast it's moving underneath. Right? You've got to be informed and you got to move to higher ground and be very careful about floods because you can't always see what damage they did underneath the water. This took out a whole road. Where's the road? I don't see the road anymore. Right? What do you need in case you have to evacuate? How do you communicate with people? Got to be prepared and listen to information about the floods. Right there, my whole trail is washed out, and there's the field the kids used to play in, the walking park for the dogs. That's a road, and those signs, that means there's a little bit of water in that road. It looks kind of high. That's enough water to pull a person under or take a car off the road. We still want to be careful when we recover from floods or other disasters. You're learning today that some of these recovery steps are very similar. They're just a little different based on what kind of disaster it is. Many people find out that they live in a flood zone, and there's organizations and people that can help you learn about insurance. Tornadoes. In the chat, has anybody seen a real tornado? I've seen them on TV, but look at this tornado in the picture. It's got lightning coming on with it, and that tornado looks like it's moving pretty fast. There's a lot of tornadoes every year, and people die from them and get injured. So be very careful. Oh, good. We got some, thank goodness. No, I didn't I haven't been in a tornado. The funny thing, I knew somebody who told me that their house was saved in a tornado, but the neighbor's house was totally gone. All right, so we're watching, we're learning about things and how much time do we have and what we can do. Many times we have to take safety in shelter inside. Here's about the whistle. Here's about the crank flashlight. Get your things ready, right? Get your things ready. Know what to do. Learn about things. Be updated. Go inside. Go to the lowest floor for the tornadoes. It's kind of hard. When I was doing some work after the disasters and Katrinas and stuff in Louisiana, where people said it's going to flood, and it did. Can you imagine 20 feet of water over your street or in your front yard? But then some people didn't even have basements, but it's hard to go to the lowest part if it's going to flood. But then you go up into the attic and high hurricanes and tornadoes take off the roof. You got to learn what to do and plan ahead, right? Move to interior hallways, but don't be in a mobile home. Always find a way out of a mobile home. Sometimes if you see things yourself, you can't wait for people to tell you to get out of the way. Act quickly, right? Find shelter, act quickly. Cars can get blown off with the hurricanes, the floods, the tornadoes. So see what you're going to do, learn what you're going to do, and keep yourself safe. Where's the houses? Look at this picture. Where's the buildings? A tornado totally cleaned up this town. So I hope everybody had basements or got out of town. I think the law enforcement really did say these people had to leave, and they left 20 miles away, and they brought buses in to get the people out. So working with the authorities helps you know how to get away from the tornadoes when you see it come after. Steps to recovery. Don't get hurt. There still could be power lines. And some people have to take pictures so they can show their insurance. You also could have your emergency app for Red Cross, tell people you're safe and well, right? Things to do. Even general maintenance helps before these storms come, keeping things clean and out of the way so that doesn't blow around, right? So because of all these things that we have, we really want to learn about being prepared. But guess what? Even when people tell me things in the chat that they've lived through a tornado or their house burned down, they are not living in their house right now. They're in a hotel or they're at a friend's house. Just these emergencies and disasters sometimes make people not feel to get kind of scary. So this is okay and normal. And the school nurse and a lot of nurses that I've talked to says, Marco, let's learn about how to breathe. There's many, many different ways to breathe. So today we're thinking and remembering that breathing should help us, and we should practice, learn a breathing technique and practice breathing, because I said to the nurse, do I have to learn how to breathe? Yeah, when you're in emergencies, or if you have to take a test in school, or your boss wants that report yesterday, you have some things to do. Let's learn about just breathe in, hold it a little bit, breathe out, and repeat. So find a way, put your shoulders back. There's different ways to do things. Do it several times to feel better. Learn how to breathe and then share with others how to breathe. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Practice it. Some people put their arms in a certain way. Some people stand up, put your shoulders back, give your air in there. Oh, I already feel better now. After talking about all those hurricanes and floods and fires and things, I'm glad I feel better, that I had to take a breath. So sometimes, even if you're in a big meeting or something, say, hey guys, let's take a breath. All right. So you can help other people when you know how to help yourself. And sometimes with disasters, you just need to listen to people and to be there for them. So what does being prepared do? Helps build confidence before the disaster. Hey, I'm ready. Got my go bag. I got my medications in there. I got the things I like for my hygiene to keep clean, right? So we can be supportive, and look at what in the last 2 years, COVID has made more people help others cope with things because we've learned more and more about using the technology and something called virtual. All right. So use these different things. Use looking the phone. You can look at each other while you talk now. Try these things that are available to you to help yourself relax and plan and prepare, and also helping others how to plan. Now, how do I stay safe if I have to stay? If the law enforcement and the people say the roads are bad, the storm is coming, the winds are knocking down trees and power lines, stay in your house, stay in your place. Well, we like to learn about, we've already been taking assessment, learning what you need, how much food, how much water, right? What kind of first aid kit? So we're assessing these things. Do I have all my phone numbers, all my account numbers, right? Do I have my ID filled out? So if we learn what we need, then we can mitigate when these bad things happen, when these weather happens, what's the impact, right? We can be prepared by learning in advance what I can do. I can get some water in, oh, the gas prices are going crazy. I can get some gas. I like to have my car full of gas because I happen to have a little plug that goes in the cigarette lighter, but now that charges the phone, charges my laptop. So I can charge things in my car even if I don't drive anywhere. So it's good to have gas because that may be a place as a resource for you. So assess, mitigate, prepare, and respond. When do you respond? You're listening, you're being informed, you listen to law enforcement, your family, your friends, the weather people, from all these tools that you have. And then we recover. How quick can we recover? Do we have our records? I have made, like 10 years ago, a CD of all my records of all my accounts and sent it to my brother in California. Guess what? I thought 10 years ago, well, my passport's already expired. I probably have different charge cards. So now I'm making a USB, right? And then they have, say, put it someplace in a cloud storage. So find places so you could recover. You may have lost things. If there's a house fire, you go out in your pajamas and you and your bedroom slippers, you don't have time. You have to get out in 2 minutes or less. My friend just had last year, his house burned down. He was out with his pajamas at 6 in the morning and the whole house had toxic smoke and melted. All right. So you don't get your phone, it's melted. You don't have your wallet. You can't see in the house. You have to get out in less than 2 minutes. Don't go look for things. Guess what? He had given a USB port of all his records to his family that was out of town. So learning and doing these things and being ready helps us stay safe when we have to stay in place. Many times we're asked, well, when do I evacuate? Do you know some people in all these big floods we've had, or in the ice storms and the power's down and the law enforcement says, time to evacuate. We're opening up state shelters, county shelters, Red Cross shelters. There's places to go. Some people don't go. But there's protective action decisions. I remember today you're important to me. You're the most important person. No, I'm the most important. No, you're the most important. Okay, let's say you got to take care of yourself. Learn about these risks. See what you can do. What kind of cues? What's going to make you say, I'm going to listen to law enforcement because I've got the emergency app. I'm communicating with my neighbors and my friends, my support group. Here's all these things we pull together to have trusted sources to know, yes, it's safe for me to seal up and lock up and evacuate my house. All right. Then I come back from being evacuated in a shelter, or maybe I went to see my brother if I could get there. So we looked around. You have to document what happened and how to clean things up and have my support network help me. Sometimes the power has been out a long time. then you have to say, well, I can't keep anything in the refrigerator. And you have to be careful about electronics. They could still have been burned out. And be careful when you're recovering. There'll probably be a lot of sales on generators brought in from outside the disaster area, either by donations or special sale. Don't try to use them in a tent, or they always have to be outdoors. Right? So manage and take care of yourself as you're coming back. Support networks are important. I'm looking for questions. I'm looking for questions in the chat and ideas. Oh, somebody. Oh, in Northwest, they had some big winds. Tree blown down, lanes of street were blocked. Yeah, there's different things that you have to be careful about. Here's some resources to learn and refer to. And thank you very much. We've given time to go over these things. We've tried to go through them so you could see how the fullness, but we're very much willing to go back to other slides or to answer any questions. But take action yourself while there's still time. And if you, yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for always giving us such a thoughtful presentation and some things to think about. Full disclosure, 3 days ago, my high rise had a fire and I was that person standing outside in my pajamas. And I am not proud to say I was not wholly prepared. I had everything except my eyeglasses, and I rely on my eyeglasses to see.
Oh boy.
And so I made a concerted effort to bring a second pair of eyeglasses to my job here in case that ever happens again. So I want to share that with everyone, that it is real and you can get caught off guard if you are unprepared. And so as we move into questions, I'd like to invite our audience to ask questions in the chat. And to kick us off, Marco, I have a question about the emergency contact card you mentioned.
Yes.
On the card, it notes there's a section for our blood type. What if we don't know our blood type? Is the Red Cross open and available now to help us learn what our blood type is? And in the second part to that question is, I know in the Washington metropolitan area, the Red Cross, I'm not sure if it's national, is experiencing blood donations shortage. Is that still going on? And is it a good time now to donate blood?
Yes. In fact, now Red Cross has added that they will check and evaluate your blood a little further to help you if you're concerned about COVID or anything like that. But the blood type, many people can ask their primary doctor. If you do annually a physical or have your blood taken once a year with your primary at your physical, that's kind of a good time to say, hey, I sort of want to know. I have checked this out with the emergency management responders. They said, well, one of the first things they do is do your blood type if you're involved in an accident or emergency. If you're on your way to a hospital, that's one thing they would do. But I said, well, I like to learn what mine was, and I found out what mine was, and I'm an AB plus or positive or whatever that is. So don't know what that means, but if they, sometimes the Red Cross or hospitals will say, hey, we need AB blood, then it's my turn. Because they called me out, they found me. So yes, they need blood. And you could go online at the Red Cross. There's a place to register to find out close to you or make an appointment. Across the United States, they'll be glad to talk to you about receiving blood donations, and they might tell you some information for free that you might have to pay for if you went to a doctor.
Okay, and thank you. Someone put the link to the Red Cross in the chat, so thank you.
Yes.
And as we continue to wait for questions, you mentioned something about a crank radio. Where can I purchase a crank radio? And do I need to buy the most expensive radio that is available?
No, this is my crank radio and my alarm, and it's not expensive. It looks like a flashlight, but it's also a radio, and it's also a charger for the cell phone. I've got for Christmas for everybody ones from LL Bean. They come in different colors. Red Cross sells them. You can go to redcross.org/store, and there's different kinds, but I have one with the solar top on it. I have one in the car. I have one by my bed, right in the drawer, and where I could do all the weather bands and charge phones, and it has lights. So car, home, bedside, everywhere you could think of, and they're different sizes. There's from real small, like a little thicker than a phone, a handheld. Then they get bigger. And some people like the bigger ones because I think when you crank it up, it has a solar top on it. So I'm very excited, and I keep trying to buy something for birthdays and Christmas every day. And I said, okay, I thought I bought you the first crank radio. Where is that? Well, that's in the car. Well, but if you're in the house and you can't go outside, you need one inside. So I said, hello, I gave you an idea. I got you one. You go buy your own second one. You need more than one thing, but I love them. They come in different colors and sizes. And it's a great thing to do when you got 4 or 5 hours and there's no power. You got 3 days and there's no power. But, can you stay or go depending on, can you still live in where you are? So yes, definitely consider the crank radios because they're also phone chargers.
Okay. And we have a question in the chat, and it reads, how about a shortwave radio? Any significant difference between a crank radio and a crank radio and a shortwave radio?
Well, the shortwave, you have all kind of emergency support groups doing things and checking information on that. It's a different kind of radio. You still need your battery backups and things like that. The basic thing with the crank radio that's for the everyday person is it's got the weather bands, and you dial them in and you sound like you're on shortwave. So I have those too. You can go to the big box stores and get a pack of 6 or 12. They come in 2s sometime. And then there's everybody different, how many people are in the house. And you can take them with you in the car, and you could talk to other people and say, hey, I can't get out of here. There's trees covering all the road. I can't go forward. I can't go backward. I need help. So they're very important.
Yes, they are. And so, Marco, I have another question. And I'd like to, again, invite our audience to ask all the questions you like as we prepare for emergencies. So, Marco, I'm curious, if you have time to prepare for a disaster, should you turn off all of the utilities in your home, or if you live in an apartment, should you disconnect all of your appliances?
Yes, I used to be a big believer saying, oh, they're so smart and strong now, things are built better and better, but they're not. And sometimes they melt. In fact, my neighbor down the block last year, when his house went down, the fire investigator traced it to connections of some cheap, some phone charger or something plugged in the wall, and it melted and caused a fire, and he lost his whole insides of his house.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it's safer. You just never know if the hurricanes with the storms, if things get electrified and it comes backwards, push back. There's supposed to be all kind of safety measures nowadays in there. Your panel should go off first. Your breaker should switch, but the panel didn't go close and the breaker didn't switch for my friend. That's down the street, and he's not back in the house yet. They haven't been able to rebuild yet. So yeah, it doesn't hurt. Go around, unplug things, especially all the different things that you may have said, well, I got this phone charger for $3. I'm not sure how good that is. If I see it from $3 to $43, what's the difference in these cell phone chargers?
Okay.
Be
So,
careful.
yes, and so we have a question in the chat, but just to follow up a little bit on what you said, is it a good idea on a regular every day to maybe just unplug that coffee pot that you assume will go off by itself, or that iron that you think will turn off? Should we just unplug our belongings every day?
Yeah, I've started to make my habit with that. And guess what did it? Not that I've had years and years of experience. It was 1 year ago when my friend's house burned inside. It was something that had to happen to somebody I know that it made me believe, yeah, unplug stuff.
Oh my goodness.
It's
So-
kind of hard with the alarm clock that's supposed to wake me up, but and the coffee pot that's supposed to have the coffee ready. But you have to think about it. Buy a high quality thing, alarm clock, a radio bedside thing, and a quality coffee pot. I mean, I don't think the biggest thing the fire marshal tells me is from the little teeny $10 space heaters that people put in. That starts big fires in apartments
Oh
and
my-
rental units.
Indeed. So we have two questions here in the chat, and the first reads, how can we access the ID cards? And the second part is, are they accessible to print online?
Okay, so on, redcross.org, then you could put in ID cards or contact cards. It's free up there. And FEMA has some too. State of Virginia, Maryland, some states have theirs also. So like you go to, be Virginia ready, be Maryland ready, be DC ready, be California ready, be FEMA ready, or ready.gov. There's different ones. I happen to use the Red Cross ones. Some of them, they like you just to print them out, and they're double-sided, they flip over. So I showed you I had 2 slides for the one card, the contact card. But like what I've been doing, I go to senior centers, I have a bunch of 3x5 cards. I said, you guys maybe already have this, but here, put it on the front and back of this card. Put your stuff on the front and put who you want me to call on the back. So it's good to have an easy thing to fill out, a printout, but Red Cross has it. They're available up there, and I highly just have more than one. Have it everywhere you could think of, in your backpack, in your waist pack, in your car. Have that important information. For some states have like a little button, and it says that I have my ID on a magnet in the kitchen, on the refrigerator, right? So it's thinking about these things ahead of time. You can't have those ID cards or those out-of-town contacts or my neighbors, or my support group. And when I have that card in a class and I have them for everybody, I say, okay, we're going to do one thing today. You're going to fill out this card, even if you didn't get to do anything else or make a kit, So it's hard sometimes. How big is your support unit? And you're getting older, or you're young, and well, I don't live by anybody, and granny and everybody's passed away. So you could really help others by thinking and say, let's fill this out. Let's start your support unit, your group. There's, and of course, my name gets put in a lot of these groups. Okay, across the United States, I'm an out-of-town support contact, but it really means somebody closer that you know about and knows about you.
So Marco, we do have 2 questions, and I'm going to ask the third, and it speaks to terrorism and unforeseen acts. We know in the Washington metropolitan area, there was an apartment building that exploded, and many people were at work but came home to a home engulfed in flames, and that not an act of terrorism, but certainly traumatic. Is this when the emergency kit in your car comes into play? And if you don't have a kit, can we assume that the Red Cross will be on the scene to provide aid?
Yeah, having more than one kit is important in more than one place. And let's have this as a learning moment then. Everyday carry. For years, the most ready and prepared people I knew were people who carried something called a purse of different sizes. Now it's a technical emergency management term called everyday carry. And you've seen these sizes of some of these purses, and I keep looking in there and say, she must have a crank radio down in there. You know, but they're small thing. Anyway, now even everybody can have an everyday carry as a waist pack, but their small ones can be organized into a Ziploc thing and put it on your person. I've gotten more and more cargo pants. Some are dressier than others. I try not to look like I'm going out into camping, but pants with pockets, shirts and coats with pockets. So that's a whole nother reason to be wearing and carrying your kit. If it's in the car, it should have some food and water or some health bars or cereal bars or something that doesn't get stale, doesn't perish, right? So we're looking for what you should have.
Okay.
If you get back there though, and there's fires, and there's usually a fire marshal that opens a case, and the Red Cross then can assist and help out in those matters. If that happens to you, things like that. So there's certain things that can happen, and the Red Cross is linked in as can open up a case if the fire marshal then said, yes, this house, you can't get in it anymore. They're not allowed in there. It'll take them weeks or months to repair.
Okay. Thank you for that. Looks like we have 3 minutes and we have 2 great questions. So I'll read them. The first reads, can dusty areas near an active outlet cause fires?
I love that one. I think that I'd love to say, yes, it does. Keep things clean. Clean your place. But whoa, what a nice reason. Maybe I could use that. Hey, look, if you don't clean your place, man, clean your room. My mother tells me that. Clean your room. I don't know what the science or evidence behind that is. I just know that we are trained getting ready for big and bad disasters or even little ones is keep things maintained, keep things clean, keep things organized. You know, don't be surprised if you lose all your downspouting and all your gutters if you own a house, or even on your apartment, if all the drainage comes apart because you didn't do the 2 or 3 times a year maintenance to clean them out. Or every fall, all the leaves are in there. Then somebody says, how come my neighbors' downspouts are still on their houses and all mine are on the ground after that storm? Because you never cleaned out your gutters. You left all the leaves in. So I'd like to say, let's keep things clean. The cleaner, the safer, probably, right?
Agreed. And we have one last question, and it reads, and it asks, can you please speak to the importance of shutters in hurricane areas?
Yes, that's a big, and they've really improved the do-it-yourself, made it inexpensive for these kits to be installed now. There was a time when I bought a house a while ago, then it had the shutters and they were on these hinges and it was wrought iron and it looked real nice. But nowadays they're clean faced. So if you're in that area, and many states have zones, so you could learn and work with your state emergency management, and your county or borough and your local people will say, yeah, you can get help for insurance on this, or here, these kits are, because you're in this area, you'll be covered under such and such. So I think there's ways to learn about it of the different across the United States. You certainly can have high winds. Some people are getting them because they think if they have to evacuate, they think by locking those shutters from the inside, they'll be able to prevent the vandals that take advantage for disasters against people who have evacuated.
Well, Marco, that's a perfect segue. We're at 2:00, and if there aren't any additional questions, we'd like to thank you again for joining us and helping us all to become Red Cross ready. Thank you. We hope that you will join us again and look forward to working with the Red Cross. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and we hope you can join us for our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe.
Be safe.